70 people were killed after convoys of evacuees in Gaza were hit by Israeli strikes. These are fleeing civilians that were evacuating following what Israel told them to do after cutting off their food, water, and electricity, of course.
This morning, Israel dropped thousands of leaflets in the north of the Strip warning civilians.
You know why they dropped the leaflets, right? Because they know that that most people don't have access to the internet anymore. Most people in Gaza at this point do not have water. Their batteries have run out. They have no electricity. So they're dumping leaflets so they can still retain the position that they are the most moral army, which, of course, I don't think anybody really believes. Really, listen, I think that this doesn't work. Like every single instance, every single attack on civilian infrastructure by Russian soldiers, Russian military, is a war crime that has been adequately considered as such. Completely. Would it be justifiable if Russia was like, hey, before we do a artillery barrage, we're warning you, like, it's coming? Would that change the reality? Would anybody sit here and say that Russia is the most moral military in the world? Well, I know some people who would say that. The people pushing Z, they'd be like, Russia is so moral. They don't have the gay, they, them military that America does. That's why they're the best military. But like, would any normal human being, okay, would any normal, serious human with like at least 3.5 fucking brain cells say that that is like a genuine attempt at being moral?
This morning, Israel dropped thousands of leaflets in the north of the Strip warning civilians to go south. Quote, Gaza City has turned into a battlefield. Leave your homes immediately, read those flyers. The IDF told Gaza City residents they would refrain from touching an evacuation route until 8 p.m. That was just about 2 hours ago. Quote, no one knows where we're going, one Gaza resident told NBC News, but we're ready to run.
Here's a testimony from a young journalist in Gaza named Hassan.
So, more updates about the evacuation that I've been talking about since the morning. Do you remember when I said that they push people to evacuate from the northern to the southern areas via a safe route, as they said? Okay, that was a trick. That was a trick. They targeted ambulances, cars, and buses in the road, and more than 150 people were killed until now, as I heard from other press and other journalists. So this is part 3. They are playing with us. They are playing with and on us. They told us this is a safe route. Innocent people took anything from their homes and went to the southern areas, and they killed them. They literally killed them. Literally more than 30 ambulance cars until now reached the Shifa.
I think like the Russian invasion of Ukraine, that invasion and the world's response to it, in my opinion, changed something really significant. One, it gave many more tools to smaller nations and smaller militant formations to be able to fight against like much larger foes, which I think benefited Hamas, certainly. But more importantly than that, I think that people, even if you are an enemy to the Western world, people basically just look at your actions and they're like, what am I going to do? Just think about it. What Russia did in Ukraine pretty much showed that even if you are not a part of the Western, even if you're not a part of the Western Marvel Cinematic Universe, you can still pretty much get away with doing whatever the fuck you want to do. Like, sure, there is a tremendous amount of retaliation, and they will flood your country with weapons from the Western world. But ultimately, there's not much more interest in like stopping casualties in any meaningful way. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, Hassan, I can't believe you would ask for a ceasefire," which I have time and time again. And a interest in like negotiating and trying to stop the endless bloodshed in Ukraine. Ultimately, though, the lessons learned for larger state actors is you can do whatever the fuck you want. Now, obviously, Israel was doing that already. It was an apartheid state already. But I don't think that this is, I think that, like the severity of these crimes and the frequency of these crimes have greatly increased.
It's not ended. It's not ended yet. Many people are killed. Most of them are children. The scenes are really hard. I can't even imagine that I'm living this. I can't imagine that this is real. I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my life. Please do something.
6,000 bombs in 6 days. For comparison, an international anti-ISIS coalition dropped an average of 2,500 bombs per month across Syria and Iraq. I believe 6,000 bombs dropped in the last fucking 4 days or 6 days is more than the number of bombs that was dropped in Afghanistan in the first year of the occupation of Afghanistan. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but it's a lot of bombs, especially in a very small area. Israel is dropping in less than a week what the U.S. was dropping in Afghanistan in a year in a much smaller, much more densely populated area where mistakes are going to be magnified, said Mark Garlasco, a former UN war crimes investigator. They're saying out loud over and over again that they plan to commit mass ethnic cleansing while they are doing it IRL. There's no reason to hide it when you've been given explicit guarantees of blanket immunity by the U.S.-led rules-based international order. Yeah.
Netanyahu's Likud party, also a member of the Knesset, said this on the social media platform X. Right now, one goal, Nakba, a Nakba that will overshadow the Nakba.
It's shocking because, Nakba and its existence is contested inside of Israel, I thought that it wasn't a cleansing, ethnic cleansing and ethnic displacement. So why is this guy saying that it is and that we should do more of it, actually? Just something to consider. It's the classic, it didn't happen, but if it did, they deserved it and we should do more of it. And it was good. Israel's now bombing bus convoys of Palestinians they told to flee to the south of Gaza. 70 killed so far. Thousands aimlessly walk while bombs drop around them. My friends said internet will be cut off in a few hours with no more contact. I hope these are not my last words to you. Yeah, last night we saw some of the Palestinians basically saying goodbye. The World Health Organization pleads for immediate reversal of Gaza evacuation in order to protect the health and reduce suffering. It's like no one... These are... First of all, it took you this many days to say it. That's crazy. Oh, here, this is the statement from the Reuters PR team. We are deeply saddened to learn that our videographer Issam Abdallah has been killed. Issam was a part of a Reuters crew in southern Lebanon who was providing a live signal. We are currently seeking more information, working with authorities in the region, and supporting Issam's family and colleagues. Reuters journalists Taher al-Sudani and Maher Nazeh have also sustained injuries and are seeking medical care. So who killed him? How did this happen? Did it was just like a loose rocket? Is that what happened?
I feel enraged to be watching this because it feels as though we are living through yet another Iraq war, with the mass hysteria being produced and manufactured by mass media, the kind of anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Muslim sentiment spreading rapidly. And as the Israeli regime bombards civilians in the Gaza Strip, the death toll of children alone in the past 7 days has exceeded 500 children killed. And yet, your earlier colleague had the the audacity to say that the people protesting in the street all around the world were protesting to be anti-United States and not because there are literally thousands of people killed in the Gaza Strip, because literally there are people in the Gaza Strip besieged. There were over 1 million people being told to evacuate their homes and neighborhoods, even though there are no cars, no ambulances, even though everything is being bombarded.
Now, we're seeing these protests all around the world, from Arab communities and Muslim communities, angry, sad at what they're seeing. Can you just give us a sense of the depth of feeling, why people are coming out in their numbers? I think the protest that we're witnessing today in Amman, for instance, is one of the biggest I certainly have ever seen. Just give us a sense of
why are
how
these
people
Arabs
feel.
Why are these Arabs protesting an ethnic cleansing occurring? I don't get it. I wonder.
People are devastated. We are talking about hundreds of thousands, millions of lives, millions of families.
The other side of this, by the way, not to cut off our friend here, but the other side of this is also because a lot of Arabs, not their leadership, but a lot of Arabs see what is happening to Palestinians and the refusal from the Western world and are reminded of their own atrocities. They are reminded of their own plight in the hands of Western imperialists. They are reminded of what has happened in their own countries, because this has happened in every single Muslim majority nation, with the exception of, I would say, Turkey, because Turkey has always been an unequivocal defender and supporter of American imperialism, the NATO nation of Turkey. That's it. That's why they see it and they're like, this is the same struggle that we have experienced.
What do you think needs to happen?
The story did not begin and end with the past week. There has been a population of over 2 million people being held hostage by the Israeli regime. Living under siege, living under blockade is not a sustainable solution. Neither is living behind a wall under military occupation where thousands of armed settlers roam the streets. Just today, a Palestinian was killed by an Israeli.
That's not a bad question. That's a really good question. I think asking a Palestinian what they think is the best way out of this is not the worst question at all. This is a great question. It's rarely one that is asked. They're not going, hey, do you condemn the fucking violence over and over again? So I'm happy. It's good to hear the perspective.
By an Israeli settler in Hebron, and 2 days ago, 2 Palestinians were killed by an Israeli settler in Nablus, and during their funeral, 2 more Palestinians were killed by settlers. Again, this has been happening every single day. I mean, my own family has lost.
That is not covered by Western media, and I think that is deliberate, and I think that is by design. I'll say that much. I think that the reason why they don't cover the settler violence in the West Bank is because that is the type of violence that Americans can comprehend. That's why I usually will cover the West Bank and the treatment of Palestinians in the West Bank, because settlers engaging in acts of violence against Palestinians in the West Bank are so devastating. And ones that like even Americans can comprehend, because it's very similar to like the mass atrocities that you see in your own backyard. But usually when I talk about that sort of thing, people don't even believe it. It is very eye-opening for a lot of people when they see that, because they can't even comprehend it. They're like, what the fuck? You're telling me that like this has been a deliberate attempt to partition Palestinian land, that like the entire world is considering Palestinian land? And these guys have guns and they are completely unaccountable. And when they fucking kill Palestinians with the guns that they got from the government, oftentimes, that they can just get away with it. And the IDF does nothing. And the IDF basically turns around and also continues gunning down the Palestinians because they have no legal obligation or responsibility to protect the Palestinians, even though they're like occupying this area.
All of this equation between Hamas and ISIS, all of this talk about quote unquote beheading and raping people is just preemptively readying you to justify and write a blank check for Israeli genocide. Do not believe everything you see on these television screens. People are lying to you.
Mohammed Al-Kurd, thank you for your time. I should also, though, point out I've been to the south of Israel. I've met people. An attack happened on Saturday, and this is a response. One can agree or not agree to it, but it is, what happened on Saturday happened. But thank you very much for your time.
What? That's how you wrapped it up? Bro, what is happening? Like, that's really, you listened to this man's words and you had to be like, let me get a final word in edgewise. Ethnic cleansing is going to happen because of what happened on Saturday, and there's not really much we can do about it, I guess. What do you mean, believe it or not? The fuck? It is what it is, homie. Sorry. Your family members have to die, I guess. This violence is an inevitability, but that does not mean, when I say that this violence is an inevitability, that does not mean that this is a justified thing. I need people to understand the distinction. It is horrific, it's monstrous, and the Israeli government is every bit responsible for it. That is also the type of violence that every day, every single day, Palestinians in the West Bank under Israeli authority, illegal authority of the Israeli government, experience. That is the type of violence that, it's less personal, but still the type of violence that exists in Gaza. That is the violence that begets violence. It was mind-boggling to me that the first step of action from the Israeli government, when Palestinian militants, Hamas, had taken up positions inside of Israel proper, in kibbutzes and in police precincts, and their immediate reaction was not to stop that and to defend Israeli citizens, but instead immediately start shelling Gaza. That was their first action. Their first action was to immediately start shelling Gaza. It blows my fucking mind. How do you blame Israel for Arab terrorists? Because, unlike you, I understand how violence occurs. You have a simple way of thinking about it, where you think it's got to be because people are bad and that's why they're doing it. They're bad. They're anti-Semitic. There's no other reason for it. They just want to kill all Jewish people. That is no way to actually try and stop additional violence from occurring, because you do not want to analyze this from the framework of people who have never seen an Israeli person in their entire fucking lives. Make no mistake, this is not a justification. So this fucked up religious extremism has nothing to do with it, right? Religious extremism is seasoning on top of the actual circumstances. It is just a simple call to action that is very effective. Religious extremism in the Israeli government is used as a way to further justify oppressive tools of the state. Religious extremism on the Hamas side, the Islamist fundamentalism on the Hamas side, is also yet a simple call to action. Religious extremists in the United States of America do 3%er gravy seal tactics and then go eat jalapeno poppers. They go to fucking Burger King. They don't go and institute or facilitate in unjustifiable acts of violence. Lone wolf attacks and stochastic terrorism still occurs in America because we're a very violent country. But the overwhelming majority of religious fundamentalists here are just simply going around and eating burgers. Why are they not going around and mercilessly and ruthlessly slaughtering everyone they declare their enemies? Perhaps it has something to do with our material conditions. I don't know. Think about it. Think about it this way. You can comprehend radicalization and the anger that people feel when they're wrong. If you can comprehend that, then try to expand upon that. Try for a single fucking moment. See how you would react if you were born into a fucking open air prison where you are being bombed regularly. What is the expectation there? Religious extremism is yet one other cause of said violent apartheid regime. This is a constant throughout history. Every single place where there has been occupation, every single place where there has been violent conditions that people are subjected to, more reactionary components take hold. When people are backed into a corner and they have nothing, they look to whatever they consider is an emancipatory force. Religious extremism is at the base of the occupation, though. Zionism isn't only supporting the current regime or not. It's, do you believe Jewish people have a right to the land of Israel and an ethno-state? Yeah, but that is, again, a fabrication. You know what I mean? That is just a way to try and justify it to every single person. Not the real reason, you know what I mean? If the IDF wanted to destroy Hamas, militarily destroy Hamas, they would go in and facilitate targeted extraction operations for the hostages. Is the most surveilled place on the fucking planet, densely populated, but it's the most surveilled place on the planet. They would go in, but they don't want to do that because it's much easier to just fucking lob rockets, 6,000 tons of rockets from afar and kill a bunch of children. You aren't a military specialist. You don't need to be a military specialist to recognize that this bombing campaign is simply a way to engage in collective punishment and engage in an ethnic displacement campaign. It's not my opinion. This is shared by the World Health Organization as of today, and Human Rights Watch, and Amnesty International, and numerous other NGOs, and the United Nations themselves. 420,000 people have been displaced already. 420,000 people have been displaced already in Gaza. Population of 2.2 million. 50% is children. Okay? 50% is children. That's 1.1 million kids that you have displaced, and you are relentlessly bombing. And you're not just bombing the children, you're bombing the Red Crescent, medics, another war crime. You're bombing UN. You're bombing UN. You're bombing the Doctors Without Borders hospital, or you've said the Doctors Without Borders hospital is slated to be bombed. Here's what they said about it, that Israel has given the Al Auda hospital just 2 hours to evacuate. Our staff are still treating patients. We unequivocally condemn this action, the continued indiscriminate bloodshed and attacks on our healthcare in Gaza. If you have no interest in defending or even seeing, if you have no interest in seeing the humanity of Arabs, Muslims in general, here are some good old white people that are there, okay? Not that it fucking matters. Health ministry in Gaza confirms 40 people were killed, 150 injured by an Israeli airstrike that targeted Palestinians attempting to evacuate from Gaza as ordered by the Israeli military. Israel has ordered 1.2 million Palestinians to leave their homes in Gaza and head south. And once they did that, they bombed them. And yeah, I saw the video a couple days ago and I didn't want to cover it yet. But now that Al Jazeera has actually verified the independent investigation I saw, I'll cover it as well. Yes, it was Al Jazeera digital investigation reveals that a video the Israeli army claims to show the killing of 4 Palestinian fighters. It is in fact 4 unarmed Palestinian men surrendering to Israeli soldiers before being shot at close range. They digitally altered the video to act like they had weapons. They never had any weapons whatsoever. They were just like walking around. I do not know that if they were actually Palestinian fighters that dropped their weapons, but even then, if they are unarmed and they're actually surrendering, that is still a war crime to shoot them and kill them. They also violently at gunpoint apprehended BBC journalists, for the record, in Tel Aviv. We never finished a Gaza Fights for Freedom documentary which documented press and medics were being sniped. Yes. I remember when one of the medics that was sniped deliberately became yet another telegenically dead Palestinian. That is not my word. That is the word of Netanyahu and many other Israeli officials. And when some in the Western media chose to cover that during the right to return marches in 2018, what did Israel do? They immediately said she wasn't actually a medic. They fucking started doing mass propaganda saying that wasn't actually a medic, and they lied about her. Razan al-Najjar.
Humanitarian situation, quote, will only deteriorate exponentially, and that crucial life-saving supplies, including fuel, food, and water, must be allowed into Gaza. So the UN is saying you must do this. You are saying you're not going to do this. How do you?
No, we're not saying that.
He's saying do it. He's saying doing it immediately. What I'm saying is what you're doing.
No.
He's saying doing it immediately.
I got you. I'll tell you exactly what we're saying. I'm saying we will do everything for the Gazan people. Once and now we demand immediate surrender, unconditional surrender of Hamas. If Hamas people come out with their hands up and clear their weapons, believe me, everything will be restored to Gaza. It is Hamas in Hamas hands.
Now I understand. Thank you for clarifying that, sir. I think we're actually on the same page here. You're saying that once Hamas leaves, you'll grant the Gazan people food, shelter, fuel, electricity, hospitals, schooling. And if they don't, and if Hamas doesn't leave, then they'll continue to starve and die in hospitals. You are defining for the international community right now collective punishment. You're saying until Hamas.
I mean, they don't hide it. Like, it's not like any of the leaders in Israel have hidden it, right? I don't really know why they fucking turn around and whenever they're faced with this question, act like they're not saying that. You know what I mean?
Hamas acts differently, the 2 million people in Gaza are going to be treated this way. And once Hamas acts differently, these 2 million people in Gaza will be treated better. That is exactly what collective punishment is. You're holding them accountable for the actions of others. That is the definition, the textbook definition of collective punishment, sir. Now, you may accept that that's what you want to do, but this is absolutely a contravention of international law.
Well, I'll tell you exactly. No, had we pushed them to the wall, we're not pushing them to the wall. We want to open a humanitarian corridor so they can leave.
Wait, that's pretty funny. Hold on. That's still a violation. And now you're saying ethnic displacement, like at the barrel of a gun, which you also fucking killed a bunch of people evacuating. Fucking anti-Semitic dumbasses. Do you agree its use as the protest for Palestine in the U.S. is the financial government is run by powerful Jewish? See Federal Reserve and Rothschilds. Yeah, dude, totally. I despise anti-Semitism because it is fucking immoral, obviously. But I also additionally hate it because it's so stupid. Like, you have to be on a different kind of stupidity level to be able to get to this point and be like, see, the Rothschilds, thank you very much. He said, my citations, anti-Semitism. Jews do not control the American government or our financial industry. Capitalists do. Jewish people are not a monolith. You have been blinded into feeling this way. You are silly and easy to control. You might think that you are thinking outside of the box. You are not. You are so in the box that the former German government was thinking in that same box, in those same confines, okay? It was quite a popular idea, both in America and also in Germany. Bro, let me teach you something. I'll show you how wrong you are. Bro, you don't understand, dude. I'm about to fucking anti-Semite pill you so fucking hard, dude. Folks, I believe in dialectical materialism. Anti-Semitism is spiritual nonsense. It's idealistic garbage. It is absolutely ridiculous to assume that one group of individuals is monolithic in their thinking, in their attitudes, in the way that they have commanded entire nations or whatever the fuck you dumbasses believe, okay? The reason why you engage in this kind of anti-Semitic thinking is because you cannot comprehend that the structures that were designed by capitalists are designed in a way to oppress you and also make you blind to said oppression. So you look for some spiritual mumbo jumbo, like there's a group of bad guys out there. There are, if you want to think about it as though they're bad, even though I don't think that they're bad necessarily. So they do bad things because they're allowed to. But those group of bad guys, okay, in the way that you understand it, are not Jewish people. Jewish people are not a monolith. Those are capitalists, capital owners doing what capital owners do. It's crazy how this conflict is now moving towards ethnic cleansing. Brother, it has never moved away from that. It's just, if there's an ethnic cleansing dial and an ethnic displacement dial, it just gets cranked up and then dialed back. The Israeli security apparatus calls it mowing the lawn anytime they crank it up, and then they dial it back. Crank it up, dial it back, crank it up, dial it back. Right now, it's not even maxed out yet. Here, I mean, a opinion you are not going to hear. The son of a missing Israeli peace activist says that his mother would be mortified by the situation in Gaza and that the vengeance is not a strategy.
She was hiding in her closet. We decided to stop talking on the phone so she wouldn't be heard. And we wrote each other and until she wrote me there inside the house. And then we just said our goodbyes. I wrote her, I'm with you. She wrote back, I feel you, 10:54. That was the last message.
What would your mother think of what's happening in Gaza now?
She would be mortified because you can't cure killed babies with more dead babies. We need peace. That's what she was working for all her life. I don't want people to hear what I'm saying in Israel. I stand by my message, but my friends, how can you not want, everybody to die? Pain is pain. And I talk with people from the kibbutz and we cry together. You can't mend that. But the only way to have safety and to...
See, scapegoating? Wait, what do you mean? There is no more moral clarity that you could ever have from someone who has been directly victimized, and yet still, even in that moment where his emotions are supposed to be much higher than you, his emotions are supposed to be much higher than the majority of people. Hamas threatened him to say this. You can see, dude, some of you guys are fucking insane. Yeah, Hamas threatened him. Really? That's the guy? This guy is a Hamas guy saying that? This is the Hamas guy? Is that what you're saying? At Channel 4 News? What kind of fucking brain dead nonsense are you guys operating on? Bro, Channel 4 is Hamas now? That's crazy. It's insane. And this is far from, he is far from alone on this position. You've heard this from people who've had their children kidnapped. Literally, as soon as, even before Israel started its bombing campaign, one of the fathers whose daughter was kidnapped by Hamas went on television and said, I am afraid that the counter to this from the Israeli government is going to lead to more death and destruction in Gaza, and I am sad for them. I'm sad for them. I grieve for them.
But the only way to have safety and to live good lives is with peace. Vengeance isn't a strategy.
This is what Ethan was talking about, by the way. Kibbutz is like a communal formation. A lot of those dudes in those villages are not like militant formations in the same way that like the settlers are. They're just like a farming village community. You say fucking settlers, but like if it's a kibbutz inside of a fucking inside of like a barely formed, barely developed fucking Israel proper, it's very different than like the settler formations that you see in the West Bank. It's just a fucking commune. The original idea of kibbutz, by the way, was literally it was supposed to be a communist one, and was supposed to literally occupy areas that people didn't live in. Yeah, some of your famous favorite anti-Zionist Jewish thinkers, from Bernie Sanders, well, who is not an anti-Zionist, but you know he's more of a soft anti-Zionist. But regardless, to Noam Chomsky and many others have literally fucking lived in kibbutzes. It's a communal space. It's not supposed to be weaponized against Palestinians. They're cooperative. They're communes. They're cooperative formations. A lot of those people are just like fucking chill ass farmers and shit. The reason why people misunderstand it is that like some of those kibbutzes literally fucking predate 1948. Some of those kibbutz formations are, stop saying on stolen land. Listen to me. I don't think you're understanding. Like I get the way that you want to talk about it, but there is nuance to this situation. You're ridiculous for just like for writing it off, because you're also wrong. You're literally wrong. The original kibbutz strategy was supposed to be like putting Jewish people from Europe that were escaping pogroms or the Holocaust into kibbutz formations that were on areas where no one was actually living there. It was not supposed to be like displacing Palestinians. As a chatter a couple days ago correctly talked about, a land for, what was it, like a land for no people, for a people with no land was originally supposed to be about putting populations into areas where no one was actually, like no one was like living there. The kibbutzim were founded by the members of the Bilu movement who emigrated to Palestine, like the members of the first Aliyah who came before them and established agricultural villages. Most members of the second Aliyah planned to become farmers, almost the sole career available in the agrarian economy of Ottoman Palestine. And the original formations were not like supposed to be viciously ethnically displacing Palestinian people. Some of those kibbutz people are literally the most anti-Zionist anyway. They were not there during the Ottoman era, meaning they were European settlers that came during British colonialism. Stop defending them. Palestine is for Arabs only, not Europeans. I want to maintain a position here. When I say I'm a one-stater, I am for a single-state solution. I want to present something to you. Make no mistake. This does not mean that my one-state solution means a cleansing or a forcible displacement of all Jews that are currently living in occupied in the occupied Israeli 1948 territories. Okay, there's no way you can do that. That is impossible, and that's wrong. On top of that, if it is wrong to ethnically displace Palestinian people during the Nakba and the Arabs during the Nakba, it is also wrong to try to forcibly, and also frivolous to even make this argument, because it's never going to fucking happen anyway. But it's also wrong to try and make this argument that they deserve to also be displaced. Not only that, but it also feeds into the hands of people. It feeds into the hands of people who maintain the position that like that's the goal, that's the ultimate goal, is to just wipe out every Jew. A one-state solution for me means giving reparations to Palestinians, allowing a right to return for all Palestinians globally, okay, and having a singular state where everyone has equal rights and equal representation. Now, when you present this idea, which is the best possible idea, most people will say, and it's a singular secular state, not a Jewish one, and not a Muslim one, obviously, which would not happen regardless. So the idea that we can't reach that conclusion is one that people often directly place the blame on the Palestinian side. If you're in the fucking Western world, there is no reason for you to also continue on with this narrative. By the way, people say two-state solution. I have this conversation with my Jewish American normie friends all the time, not like anti-Zionist ones, but normie ones all the time, and they'll be like, two-state solution. They say the inverse of this, where they say two-state solution would turn into like a mass displacement of Jews because there's more Muslims. and then they would turn around and turn it into a Muslim state, and then they would start ethnically cleansing the Jews. This is a very real fear that American Jews have and Israelis have as well. That's like why they claim, whether it's correct or not, that's why they claim that you can never have a one-state solution, let alone a one-state solution that revolves around the maintenance of a secular state.